Thank you so much, and good morning, good day, everybody in this room, and a very warm welcome to the panelists. I have very exciting panelists with me today, very experienced and knowledgeable experts from the ground. The last 1.5 days, we have discussed a lot about governance. So we decided to design one session where we talk a little bit about the interplay of effective national and subnational cooperation in order to advance sustainability on the ground. And we would love to hear from you on how you see this and what you think can work, because we have to look at this interplay from the national to the subnational level that touches upon all of us here. I wish to start with Teresa. Teresa Solis, you have been the subsecretary, undersecretary of Planning and Tourism Policy in Mexico for several years. You are now an industrial expert in Deloitte on tourism and regional planning. From your perspective and from your experience, how do you see this? What are your findings, your insights into this?
Well, a little bit what I have learned along these years is, as Dirk presented a while ago, and first of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's just great to be here. It is very important. We have really complex challenges in the sector, but also I think the key to solve those challenges is collaboration. And first of all, to recognize that tourism is actually one of the best leverages to create the right solutions. Somehow, the tourism industry is used to collaborating, to put together people from all over the place and the different disciplines, different profiles. So this idea of collaboration, usually the leadership at the national level, to this leadership corresponds creating the institutional arrangements and the frameworks that was mentioned a while ago for this collaboration to take place. We have seen in marketing, we have like branding projects, defining the values of the brand, the strategies, the priorities. In terms of statistics, also creating the right frameworks so we can connect with international standards and then be able to support each destination to build the statistics from the bottom up. As well, planning is key, and also collaborating with the planning authorities so we can have really a planning that takes into account tourism when this activity is important in the location. And in many other areas. We just heard about biodiversity. How can we incorporate biodiversity in our policies and really think in an integral way? So in that sense, once we have these frameworks, then we need to collaborate in a transversal way, with teaming up with environmental authorities, urban planning, of course, in natural protected areas with the authorities in charge of this, social issues, and very much with the private sector, not only the large corporations, but also with small entrepreneurs and small businesses. And taking also into account that we have a technology opportunity, an opportunity to innovate through technology to make this very powerful. In that sense, I think that having that, to get that trust, we need strong independent institutions. In the case, for example, of Mexico, we have a very strong organization in charge of economic information, statistics, and geographical information. And teaming up with all these very specific organizations, we can improve and increase the professionalization of our sector at each of the local levels. And in each place, well, tourism is made locally. We need to create the experiences and look after the environment and the ecosystems and the social inclusion. And I was saying, sometimes we think we focus a little bit too much on the problems, and we forget at least in Latin America, tourism has been a great solution for millions of people. Just as you are familiar with these migration flows from the developing world to the developed countries, we have a similar situation in Mexico. So we have very poor areas where people are in extreme poverty that have been able to migrate to certain successful destinations such as Cancun or the Mayan Riviera, to Los Cabos, to Puerto Vallarta and Riviera Nayarit, and they have been able to make a living there. But of course, this puts huge challenges to host communities. How can we guarantee not only that we have the private investments, the beautiful hotels that take advantage of our cultural and natural resources, but how can we provide a good quality of life to all these people? How can we tap into the talent of all these people and help us create the destination, the community that we want, where everybody is able to have a high quality of life, and we can really use this tourism activity to really support an authentic development. And that is the huge challenge.
Thank you very much, Teresa. So what I learned, or what we hear from you here, is that what we discussed in Dirk's panel, these action frameworks, which allow us to bring the stakeholders together, where we are guided by a certain framework in order to advance together in close collaboration with all the participants in one direction. So I think that is important, but of course then we have certain problems coming also along the way when we develop tourism in a sustainable manner. So, which brings us to Iceland. Thank you so much for joining us. It's really a pleasure having you, Arnar, with us here. Iceland is also an island that is also not very big. For you, the dimension of national, subnational is, of course, a smaller issue than we would have in Mexico, where we have 32 federal states, or also different to Austria. So how is this structured from the national to the subnational level in tourism? How is the governance structure there?
First of all, thank you for having me here. This is the second time I visit Mallorca. I absolutely love it. Being an avid cyclist, this is paradise for me. I was told where to go by my fellow cyclists, and they said, go to Mallorca. It's the Rolls Royce of cycling. So I've been here before, I love it, and I even extended my stay here for 2 days just to do some cycling. I find it interesting. There was some numbers said this morning about Mallorca and about Malta. I think Mallorca is only between 3 and 4% of the superficie of Iceland. And if I'm not wrong, we are 330 times larger than Malta, something like that. Iceland is 100,000 square kilometers. So small, yes, but yet big.
But big, yeah.
But the population, we only are just about 400,000 people, so one big family. I wouldn't say happy family, but one big family. Back to your question, how is this all done in our country? So I'm head of the Icelandic Tourist Board. So we are a little bit unusual from most tourist boards because we do not do marketing. Marketing is in the hands of Business Iceland, and they do marketing across the export industries, whether it's fishing, innovation, and tourism, which is the biggest part of what they do. So we don't do marketing. My background is in marketing. I missed it a little bit. Then we do the administration part. So if you want to apply as a company in Iceland to work as a travel organizer or day tour provider or a travel agency, you apply to the tourist board. And the third part, getting to your question, is development and local development. And we work a lot with the local DMOs. We have 7 DMOs around the country. And this is a system that was set up in 2015. And the DMOs are conditioned to have destination management plans. And these management plans, it's an ongoing process. They are sort of renewed every second year. And they are very sort of a lateral and horizontal approach. So they have meetings with the local people, with the local governments, and this setup has ensured a very good, I believe, discussion between different levels of people who have something to say about the matter. So this has created, and they create the attributes of the region, they find out the main magnets, and it has resulted in a very good discussion between the local governments and the people have a direct impact on what has been decided and where they aim in terms of tourism development. So in a few words, this is
the setup
how the setup is in Iceland.
Okay. Are there 7 DMOs that you have linked to local governments that you have, or how is that?
Yes, they are all linked to the local government.
Okay.
And we oversee the project. We oversee the plans. And the DMOs are financed by us between 50 and 70%. And the rest comes from the companies in the area and the local governments.
Okay. Thank you for that. We will talk more about Iceland in a minute. Which brings me to Mrs. Monika Klinger. You are the head of the Department of International Tourism Affairs in the Ministry of Economy and Labor in Vienna, Government of Austria. It's a pleasure having you with us, Monika, today. How does that work in Austria? We have 9 federal states, and you're sitting in Vienna in the ministry. Can you explain this a little bit, how we do it in Austria? And how does that work?
Thank you, Cordula. Thank you very much for the invitation also to Mallorca and the great hospitality we are experiencing. Music, food, everything great. Thank you so much. So for Austria, also to have 2 facts, a little bit to set the scene. Austria is a small country, 9 million people, but 150 million overnight. So it's a very tourism-intensive country. We have 2 seasons, summer, winter. And what you said already, the structuring is that we have 9 federal provinces, and they are responsible for tourism legislation, but also executive competencies. So at the national level, we have the coordination role. The federal provinces also, with their laws, develop the DMO structures. So you can have very different structures. For example, in Tyrol, which is the most tourism-intensive region in the Alps, you have 34 DMOs. In Burgenland in the east, you have 3 DMOs. In Vienna Tourist Board this year, you have 1 DMO. So it's really very diverse, also with the DMOs. And at the national level, it's of course a big coordination role then for tourism, because as Leslie also said, tourism is not just tourism legislation, but we are influenced by so many different areas, and we have to think horizontally. And many laws on the national level, of course, affect tourism, which is first the enterprise laws, which is not like you said you apply in the tourism departments, but you apply in the general commercial department for your licenses. You have transport policies, you have environmental policies, you have so many issues, and not just on the national level, but also at the European level. So this horizontal coordination and having the voice for tourism, having the understanding for tourism, is a very, very important thing at the national level. The second point, and the fly is here.
Now it's your turn.
Fred is with me. You said the second point is, of course, guidance. And we heard a lot of strategies. So also it's important for all of Austria that you have a national guidance. And our guidance plan is Plan T. We call it Plan T, Plan for Tourism, which was developed before COVID. But it's still valid because it was developed more as a vision than a set of measures. And what we do yearly and biannual action plans, which then can be rather formulated to the needs which are there at the moment. So this is very important. And just the third place is also, of course, we can create to bring together the needs from DMOs or enterprises. So we have 2 instruments I have to add at the national level. Of course, we have an NTO as it's doing marketing, but more and more it's doing innovation and helping the ecosystem in the green and digital transition. So this is in the new strategy much more focused than it was. And we have an instrument which is for SMEs, giving funding to tourism SMEs with the Austrian tourism Development Bank. And this is quite specific, I think. It's a specific institute just for tourism, where we underlie our funding instruments, but where we also do kind of pilot projects like an ESG hub, a new ESG hub already for the tourism sector. So kind of anticipate what was coming from legislation. So this is important. And the third part would be then really specific support instruments, which we can also do at the national level.
Yeah, this we will discuss in the second round a little bit in more detail, Monika, please. But good to know, to outline on how this works in Austria, and which tools and roles you have in the ministry, and how you tackle your issues down to the destination level, to the subnational level. And also interesting to learn about the bank. I know about the bank that is very unique, actually, that I know of no other country that has their own bank for the small and medium-sized enterprises in the tourism sector. Now, Martial said this morning that we have there are. So he outlined the importance of collaboration, and he outlined the vision for Mallorca, which brings me to you, Inés. Thank you so much for coming. I know that your way was your road, so to say, to this Hotel Soetri was not so far, because you are from Mallorca. You are the director of the Hotel Association of Cala, Millor, and you are dealing there with a project that comes actually from the local government level down to you, to AdaptCalaMillor level. Can you explain us on how this happened, that you are dealing there with a very important project that gains increasingly good reputation outside the island also? What this is about? I know that you will speak in Spanish.
Well, I will introduce in English, but I will, as Marcial said, I feel better to speak Spanish. But I want to thank the organization, Uncho. But also I have to thank a person that now I can be here, because in his moment he was work a lot when it was a challenge to get our project in a live program, no? To Marcial, señor, our conseller. Yo tengo que explicar que yo soy presidenta de una asociación hotelera donde el 90% de los hoteleros, de los miembros, son nacidos en la zona de AdaptCalaMillor. AdaptCalaMillor tiene una dificultad o una oportunidad ahora, que es que la misma playa pertenece a dos administraciones distintas. Ahora it's my turn. A dos ayuntamientos distintos. Entonces teníamos una problemática de una falta de coordinación, de una falta de organización urbanística, de una visión a lo mejor de nuestra, como se hacían antes las cosas, como se hacían los frentes marítimos, desde una visión desde la tierra hacia el mar y no desde el mar a la tierra. Y entonces hemos tenido la necesidad, debido a que ya hace muchos años, desde finales de los años 80, nosotros, los hoteleros, percibíamos que teníamos una pérdida de arena en nuestra playa, una percepción. No era a lo mejor tan grande como nosotros lo imaginábamos, pero al final la playa, la arena, es nuestro primer recurso económico natural. Entonces, a raíz de tener la división territorial, un mismo territorio con dos ayuntamientos, en AdaptCalaMillor se creó un consorcio que viene de turismo, que principalmente la finalidad era promocionar turísticamente un mismo destino coordinado con la asociación hotelera. Entonces se creó un consorcio público-privado en principio era para promocionar, pero la idea o la finalidad al final ha sido de que coordinar todas las problemáticas que había en un mismo destino turístico. Una de nuestras problemáticas era esa falta de arena que he comentado, Entonces, al principio, desde la asociación hotelera, se fue a la universidad a preguntar por qué teníamos esta falta de arena o esa percepción de falta de arena. Eso fue a finales de los años 90 y a principios de los años 2000. Entonces, la universidad, con IMEDEA, con el Instituto de Estudios Mediterráneos, empezó a estudiar y a valorar. CalaMillor es una bahía que tenemos una playa de 3 kilómetros, una bahía que tiene una reserva de posidonia muy grande y una bahía que nosotros ya percibimos el cambio climático. En la última reunión que estuvimos de LIFE, porque hacemos reuniones periódicas y presencialmente muchísimas, pero la última fue para comunicar a una misión de Cuba que vino para ver lo que hacíamos. Ya los números daban que se había perdido, que había subido el nivel del mar en la zona 10 centímetros. Entonces, esa problemática nos llevó a que, bueno, como he dicho antes, la arena es nuestro principal recurso económico, donde nuestros clientes al final trabajamos en otro tipo de turismo, pero nuestro principal turismo es de sol y playa. Entonces, nuestra playa es fundamental. Entonces, trabajamos en una política a lo mejor demasiado conformista y demasiado cortoplacista, que era trabajar en proyectos de mover la arena, porque sabíamos que estaba dentro de lo que es la playa húmeda, gracias a la posidonia que la retenía, pero claro, nos encontrábamos con que la administración, ya el step para arriba, costas, no nos permitía mover esa arena. Nos permitió mover durante un periodo de tiempo, pero bueno, la legislación se modificó y entonces tuvimos la problemática de que, bueno, nos encontrábamos que nosotros vendemos una playa fantástica y había zonas que se estaban quedando sin arena. De tantas veces que fuimos a tocar puertas, al final, gracias a nuestro estratega Marcial, pensó con la Dirección General de Cambio Climático que una idea sería entrar dentro de un proyecto de gobernanza multidisciplinar para adaptar la playa de CalaMillor al cambio climático. Trabajamos durante 2 años en un proyecto, en un documento para presentar a Europa y lo conseguimos.
Muy bien.
Fue la verdad una sorpresa, porque tantas veces que nosotros habíamos tocado puertas y no lo habíamos conseguido. De hecho, la primera vez que lo presentamos no nos lo dieron. Lo trabajamos más y en el 2022 ya nos lo adjudicaron. ¿Qué tiene de diferente este proyecto con respecto? Es el primer proyecto de adaptación de la playa urbana en toda Europa. Va a servir, lo que tiene de diferente y lo que tiene de innovador nuestro proyecto es que estamos estudiando la metodología a seguir para las otras zonas costeras. Hay que pensar que en Baleares hay más de 400 playas de arena. O sea, lo mismo que nos afecta a nosotros, les afecta a todas Baleares. Europa nos lo concedió por la gobernanza que teníamos. Es una gobernanza no solo administrativa, sino es una gobernanza con la sociedad civil. La sociedad civil implica no solo los residentes, implica también los turistas. Ahora llevamos 1 año en este proyecto y puedo indicar que, por ejemplo, en la zona de CalaMillor, nuestros turistas, el 60%, 61% son turistas nuevos, pero el resto, el 39% restante, son turistas que vuelven. Entonces, con muy buen criterio se les ha encuestado y se les ha tomado en cuenta para participar en lo que es nuestra gobernanza, nuestra mesa de participación. Dentro de esta mesa de participación hay 16 administraciones, porque nos toca mismo territorio, mismo ¿cómo se llama? no solo está la administración local que tiene algo que decir, sino se ha llamado a las 16 administraciones que pueden tener algo que decir con respecto a nuestro proyecto. Cuando empezamos el proyecto, nos dimos cuenta de que nos faltaban más patas. No solo la pata social, residentes, turistas, administración, empresarios, sino nos faltaba la pata jurídica. Porque sí que éramos conscientes de que ahora mismo estamos haciendo un proyecto que es una teoría, porque no ha habido una práctica, ¿no? Pero sí que somos conscientes de que las soluciones que dábamos antes no eran viables de hacer. Y las soluciones que podamos obtener, posiblemente, jurídicamente, dentro de nuestro marco legal que hay ahora mismo, tampoco se puede hacer. Entonces, estamos trabajando con la incertidumbre que nuestro marco legal actual podría hacer inviable una transformación y una adaptación al cambio climático, porque la propia legislación que tiene España con Europa, con el gobierno de Baleares y el gobierno del Consejo, el mallorquín, posiblemente no podríamos llegar a garantizar que se podría ejecutar. Y si nosotros no lo podemos hacer cuando nos están mirando con lupa desde Europa, porque esto va a servir como metodología para poder replicarlo en otras zonas, es un problema no solo nuestro, sino de todos. Por eso es necesario la gobernanza a todos los niveles. Y es necesario que los políticos, que son los que pueden cambiar la legislación, pongan manos en ello.
This is this interplay exactly that we are discussing here, the importance on all levels to come together, in your case, in order to address a concrete, specific problem at a very local level. I think that is a good example that is out there, and a good lesson also learned on how that worked. Maybe we do a second round, because there will be a second round. Teresa, a good example on the local level from your experience, and you have a lot, I know. Are there any experiences out there, or samples or case studies that you can mention here? Tell us about.
Yes, we were talking about this framework, but we have in Mexico, we have a very diverse country. We have some very well-known locations like Cancun, the Riviera Maya, but also Los Cabos. These are like the big sun and beach destinations that have similar problems to other sun and beach destinations. And then we have the interior little towns and so on. So there are different frameworks that have worked on each one. We have this magical towns framework where we have like this teaming up together at the very local for small communities in the interior. But something that I think is very important for this collaboration is timing. Sometimes we have like something happening, and the problems are there. The problem is that there are not the conditions and to get the leadership to push forward. And one case that I really like is Los Cabos. Mm-hmm. Los Cabos is an area, if you have seen the peninsula of Baja California, it is about half the size of Italy, our peninsula, and only 3% at the bottom of the peninsula, the south of the peninsula, is Los Cabos. It was two little towns, tiny towns, with a transport corridor, and it was an integrally planned destination for these two urban areas. This was developed. There was nobody. There was really, I think, Ireland was more populated than Baja California. So it was decided that tourism was a good opportunity for that. So we see that it started in the 80s. By the year 2000, we had around 30,000 people living there and some tourism development. But in the last 30 years, the size of the population has increased by 9. And the size of the urban area has increased by 142. So there is no municipal budget that can cope with that size of growth. As I was saying, all this migration. And then we had, as you know, we have some security challenges. And in the year 2016, we had a happening security issue that was some kind of shooting there very close to a very well-known hotel, so it was a total scandal. But that was really the big opportunity because everybody was concerned. And of course, businessmen invested in that region. They were very concerned, and they approached, not the security authorities, of course, they knew about the issue, but they approached the federal level, the tourism authorities, saying, we need to solve this. Mm-hmm. And it was from the federal level, the tourism sector, that a work group was installed, not only to look at the security issue. There were two very short-term issues. One was security. Suddenly, Los Cabos became the second most insecure city in the country. And the other thing was that there was an invasion of the land that was supposed to be for a second lane for the airport. So from the tourism point of view, those were urgent issues. They were tackled, but then this work group created an agenda, which is the diagnostic, which are the challenges. And we came, and we, of course, the most urgent were those two, but then we had not updated, despite this tremendous growth, the development, the urban development plan wasn't updated. And then we had problems with land. I mean, it was so successful on the in terms of tourism investment that land was more and more expensive. And we had, we identified in those days around 5,700 families of migrants that because the land was so expensive, they were invading areas of high risk. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, we had challenges with water because there was not enough water and water treatment. And of course, mobility, public spaces, waste management, energy, quality of energy. Despite being a peninsula, Los Cabos is like an island because it is disconnected from, we have this beautiful Sea of Cortez, the aquarium of the world in between. And so there is no connection to the grid. We are generating not clean energy to be able to supply this area. So there was this big list that wasn't directly a tourism problem, but that became part of the agenda. So in less than a year, Los Cabos became with this coordinated strategy. Of course, we had the private sector involved, we had NGOs, we had all the authorities at the federal, regional, and local level involved. And in less than a year, Los Cabos came from being the second worst in terms of security, became again the second best. Mm-hmm. Then we started working on all the other issues, and all these, fortunately, I mean, there was in between a change of government, but with this common plan, and thanks to the collaboration with the private sector and the local community, it was possible to go beyond what happens very much in Latin America, is that we have a change of government, and now they go all the plans. But here, this involvement allowed the continuity in time. And right now, just last week for this panel, I talked to the urban development, municipal development director, who was our director in tourism and was eventually brought to take care of this plan. And they have updated all their planning issues. They have been teaming up with international agencies, German corporation, British corporation. They have done a lot of studies. They updated also the management plans for their natural protected areas. And they have been really able to create some additional projects, like involving local entrepreneurs and creating this circular economy. Now they are rescuing food and supporting some poor communities, rescuing food. They're composting. They have a zero plastic, one-use plastic policy. They are upcycling. Actually, when they take the picture, my dress is from a local entrepreneur who is designing fashion out of bed fittings in hotels that are discarded, and they are creating all these new businesses. So there is really a dynamic that has been able to continue in time. But thanks to that factor, there is already a sense of community, of collaboration, technical expertise. They're teaming up also with the creative industries in doing different types of things, and with that common vision of the type of destination that they want. So it is a luxury destination designed for high value, and of course the community is invested and looking for the probably PPPs or international financing for solving these underlying issues like water supply and clean energy, and creating that common vision. And just one factor, something that is very relevant, is that many of the businessmen of the big hotel corporations live in Los Cabos. So they are invested there, and they are a strong factor for continuity in many of these projects, because they are the first benefiter of having a high quality of life for a destination like this.
Thank you, Teresa, for sharing this very, very interesting example with us. It shows up a little bit similarities with CalaMillor also, and how something is pushed from the federal level then down to the subnational and local levels. Coming to Iceland, Arnar, are there similar examples out there? How does that work, or which tools you have in place from your level down to the DMO level?
Yeah, it's being so small can sometimes be a blessing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a very regular thing when just a regular player is not happy about something or wants something to be done. He just calls the member of parliament. They know him. The degrees of separation between people is so small, so it does simplify things, definitely. It can help. But we recently went through a very interesting and challenging exercise. We laid out an action plan for tourism where sustainability is really the backbone of everything that we want to achieve and what we aim. And these are, so this is an action plan for 2030 based on our vision, which is sustainability and everything that we've been discussing here. But go through this exercise to carry out and identify actions for this, I would say not an industry, but system is very difficult. And if you want to have a lateral and horizontal agreement, it's very challenging. So we had 7 groups of people who were handpicked, overseen by the ministry and the steering group, which I sat in, and 7 groups of 9 people who were supposed to focus on certain aspects of tourism. Could be competitiveness, the cultural aspect, environmental aspect, education and quality, and so on. And the goal was come up with only 4 to 6 actions per group. So how do you do that? How do you come up with 4 to 6 actions to ensure the competitiveness of the tourism industry for 2030? Very difficult. But the way it was done and the handpicking of the people from all different directions, it resulted in an action plan that was laid out and agreed by the parliament last summer. So we have a plan that was created by different people from all different levels. Currently, I'm a little bit concerned.
Why?
Because right now is when we have to, as they say, put your money where your mouth is and do this. There's a lot of competition for public funding. Oh. And we are hoping that these actions will be funded. Another thing that is making things a little bit more complicated is that 4 days ago, the Prime Minister dissolved the government. Mm-hmm. So we have elections in 4 weeks. I don't know who the new Minister of Tourism is going to be. I have a wish list. But they obviously to have a huge impact on how this action plan and the commitment to it will be carried out. So, yeah, interesting days currently in Iceland in these regards.
Thank you for that. Yeah, indeed, with the change of governments, lots of issues can happen. We know, we're fully aware of that. So all the best to Iceland in this new period then. Which brings me to Austria. Which initiatives you from the federal level have in place currently that help the subnational level in advancing concerning sustainable tourism development?
Yes, we will have a new government as well. So we will see.
But we have it already.
No,
we
don't. We will see.
The
elections just there. Yeah, but I hope that we can go on with our strategy or even with a reformulate strategy. And we have some initiatives which I just pointed out at the national level, going down to the DMOs. One of those was actually demanded during the process of Plan T to have a destination label, a certification for tourism destinations. It was in 2019 asked for, but then of course COVID came and then it was developed in 2022. It was a lengthy process, and what was most importantly, it's developed by the Ministry of the Environment, but the Ministry of Tourism is strongly involved, and also there were 19 destinations in developing it strongly involved. So we had frameworks like the European Tourism Indicator Systems and other frameworks, GSDG, but then it was the Austrian version came up, and the first destinations were certified in 2022, and now we have 5 already, and there are lots of destinations in the pipeline who want to go through this really strong and heavy process. And it's not about having the label at the end, it's really embark on this process of involving everybody to fill in the categories of, I don't know, 7 fields, I think it's 6 or 7 fields with all the elements we have in sustainability. So from governance, socio-economic environment, climate change, biodiversity, a natural environment, to culture. So it's really a comprehensive catalog, and they have to go all through these processes, and I think the process is the main element in doing this. So I hope this will go on. There are many convinced destinations in Austria that they will go on this, and this will feed into the overall being more sustainable destination of Austria in all. A second project is the regional information and monitoring system, again developed horizontally with another ministry. It's the Ministry of Regional Development. So tourism being about living environments. So there we have also an extensive tool where people can go down to the community level and have 30 indicators. It's not rocket science, it's about data which is already there at the community level. It's tapping many sources, so it's Statistics Austria, but it's also Geosphere. You could look at your village, how many heat days you had 5 years ago and how many heat days you have now. Snow coverage, you have demographic developments, you have, of course, tourism indicators like length of stay, overnights, tourism enterprises, labor market. So it's really 30 indicators which were again developed with tourism destination out of a regional policy project. So tourism was the pilot for doing this regional information system, and we have now all communities, all 2,000 something communities in Austria are there in there. And this is the benefit of it. It's easy. You have the indicators comparable for everyone. You can put together your region. You can compare yourself with the neighbor village in all these indicators. So it's really an easy tool for everybody. And we talked a lot about bringing it down, all our big schemes to really manageable instruments. So it has to be easy. And there's also a kind of reference what questions could be then answered with the indicators you have. So it's really the question formulated and the answer. You just have to draw your diagram out of it. So it's really a very a good tool for the base. And the third, because we talked a lot about tourism acceptance or sentiment towards or perception. So I think we have still to figure out the differences in these areas. We have three initiatives there. One was the measurement of tourism acceptance all over Austria and going down to the federal states level. We do it now regularly. We do it on a yearly basis as Professor Jafar yesterday said. So we have to have these timelines, and we can even extend it to destinations if there is need. And we do it together with Statistics Austria in the frame of a European directive, which is looking at the travel behavior of Austrians. So we just added five questions in this European system already, and I hope that it will be also a showcase for other European countries. And also there, in acceptance, we have to take the destinations with us, and what we did a call for solutions. So we have a call for proposals to help anticipate pain points in destinations. So, of course, those who have already problems with acceptance, but also for those who could have problems. Is it overcrowding? Is it transport? Is it housing or pollution? So there are different elements which you have to tackle. And now we will have 17 projects all over Austria, which we will fund, being accompanied in this figuring out what the problems could be in the future or what the problems are already. So these are three initiatives from the national level going down to the destinations.
Thank you. That's very interesting. You call the data system that you have in place RESI, right?
Yeah.
And this stands for what?
Regional Information and Monitoring System. It's the one which we did really with regional policy. Tourism is one part of it. It's economy, demography, nature, and tourism. So it's really broader in line, but as tourism is so horizontal, and we speak about not only talking about the needs of tourists, but the needs of the population, of nature, and enterprises and their employees. So it's something which you can then use as a database for all the mayors can use it, the tourism directors can use it, the ones working at the ground can use it, and for political issues as well.
Thank you very much for this extensive explanations. I think it's very interesting to hear about that. Within the tourism acceptance studies, are you also focusing, beside the local residents, also on the workforce? That what Mr. Jafari yesterday proposed, and which is done by several destinations. For instance, Malta is looking into this also, as I know.
There are no, from the ministry, there are no kind of perception, the working conditions, but there is one done by the Chamber of Commerce every year on the workforce. And for the tourists, we have the Timona system, which is how the tourists like Austria. It is done for many years. It's done for 20 years, like the perception of the tourists of the destinations.
Thank you so much, Monika, for that. Inés, coming to you now. So what are the next steps in the project now? How long is the duration of the project? I know it's funded by the European Union.
El proyecto dura 4 años. Empezamos en enero del 2023 y termina en abril del 2027. Está dividido el trabajo está dividido en 7 work packages. El 1 es el que coordina, el 7 es el de comunicación, porque una de las cuestiones más importantes que tenemos es poder comunicar al exterior todo lo que vamos haciendo. Y ahora mismo está trabajando el Work Package 2, que es el de gobernanza, que es el que nos aglutina a todas las entidades, el que trabajamos con todas las administraciones. Incluso hay mesas de trabajo donde desde la administración hay 73 entidades trabajando en el proyecto. Luego está la parte científica, que se lo lideran los científicos, donde están estimando, evaluando y mapeando los riesgos y las vulnerabilidades que existen, no solo a nivel natural, medioambiental, sino a nivel socioeconómico. Tenemos que decir que la primera línea de CalaMillor, todo es una línea típica de turística, todos son hoteles. El 70% del Producto Interior Bruto de los 2 ayuntamientos dependen de esa primera línea. O sea, ahora se está haciendo también por parte de la universidad el estudio del impacto económico que tendría no hacer nada, o sea, quedarnos como estamos, y ya de por sí ya valoramos que en 30 años son 5.000 millones de euros para un sitio muy pequeño, o sea que si lo extrapolamos a toda la zona costera balear, allí hay un dinero a perder muy grande desde el punto de vista económico, ya que al fin y al cabo son impuestos, trabajadores. Hemos incorporado dentro de la gobernanza, que no estaba antes, a los sindicatos, porque son parte esencial dentro de nuestro sector económico. Y ahora mismo están los científicos trasladando a la parte técnica los estudios que han obtenido de... Hay que decir que CalaMillor es una playa que lleva 20 años en estudios monitorizados. O sea, llevamos también los deberes hechos vamos un poco adelantados, ¿no? Entonces ya empezamos el proyecto con mucho estudio y mucho proyecto realizado. Entonces ahora estamos en esa fase que los científicos trasladan a los técnicos los resultados que han obtenido. Decir que las soluciones que se van a dar, se va a hacer un catálogo de diferentes estrategias a poder seguir, pero las soluciones son naturales. No buscamos soluciones que le llaman duras, muchas de las playas se han adaptado al cambio climático con una adaptación dura, es decir, poniendo diques o microdiques de hormigón. Eso a la larga nos sirve. Los temporales, al fin y al cabo, nos están demostrando que se están llevando todas esas infraestructuras duras por delante. El temporal Gloria al Ministerio de Fomento, que es el Ministerio de Infraestructuras, se le fue el 70% del presupuesto. No, es inviable que cada vez que viene un temporal se vaya el 70% de un presupuesto anual. Entonces, las soluciones que se van a implementar en la playa, bajo el consenso y el paraguas de esa gobernanza, van a ser soluciones naturales, que van a ser consensuadas, pero ya lo he comentado antes. Si no hay una modificación del marco legal, no podremos hacer nada. Entonces, eso es importante. De hecho, es más, hemos incorporado un bufete de abogados que están haciendo el estudio de la ordenación del territorio para evitar que cuando terminemos todos los estudios y tengamos un proyecto ejecutivo, para poderlo ejecutar, no tengamos problemas.
Very interesting, Inés, really. I think it's interesting for all of us also to learn about the next steps and the future and the outcomes of the projects, because I think it's really, really interesting. We are coming to an end in our session. So a last round of not even a question, but can you summarize in few words your wish for the future on the governance, on a better interplay between national and subnational level? What is it, or do you have a vision, or what do you wish for actually for the future of tourism in this particular regard?
I think we have a great challenge, but we also have a lot of opportunities to create new types of solutions for tourism destinations. And we sometimes, of course, especially if you look from the perspective of governments, you see a challenge for budgeting, for funding of projects. But what we have seen is that there is really quite a bit of resources in international multilateral cooperation agencies, bilateral cooperation, and what we need is these well-designed projects that have this systemic view, that are also politically viable, and eventually we also need to get the private sector more involved in funding many of these solutions. I think both on the public sector, multilateral development banks, and private funds, there is enough money. What we need is to create those projects, look for the funding, and also what we do a lot in the firm I work on is helping support and design these co-creation projects. And then, of course, you sometimes need the public funding to start to pilot the projects, but eventually you can find, once you have the proof that this project works and is capable and has an economic impact, you will find the funding from the private sector to make it sustainable in the long term. I think that is a huge challenge. Think outside the box, team up with other agencies I was talking about, architects, urbanists, design with nature in mind, incorporate biodiversity, and once you have those solutions, just get everybody on the same track and look for the funding to implement.
Thank you, Teresa, for this views of yours and your opinion. Yes, we had yesterday a panel with Inter-American Development and UNDP that more or less expressed the interest in getting more and more engaged in this development projects that you're referring to, and the need for the private sector to get involved too. Thank you so much for that. And by the way, I love your dress. It's really nice.
Yeah,
lovely.
A Mexican designer.
It's super nice.
Upcycled bedding.
We want the name of the designer, Teresa. Anna, please.
Don't talk about my
No,
dress.
I know.
It's been a challenge for me coming here because my luggage was lost, of course. And I'm yearning for some fresh clothes, but I think it's on the way, so. Good question. I think, well, in nature, I'm optimistic. I'm not just an optimistic person, but I think, referring to Iceland, the way we define success is changing. And I think this goes top-down. Companies today are thinking differently. They are, and even companies a few years ago, I wouldn't dream of that they would hop on the sustainable wagon. So this just, creates hope. And I really think that we have referring to Iceland again, an interesting future ahead. Of course, there are challenges, there are issues, there are so much things that we have to deal with. But I think the definition of success is changing, shifting more from numbers over to sustainable elements. So, yeah.
It's good, this transformation of the attitude towards this. It's very good. Thank you very much for that. Monika.
I fully are in line with what you said. Going from quantity to quality, more quality. It's also one of the baselines of our strategy. But then I think one of the main issues also is this culture of cooperation. We have a very complex system in tourism. We have a very diverse system of tourism, and we have to build the fora to discuss. We have to be open-minded. We have to pay attention. We heard this morning from Mallorca, so pay attention. Get in all the information you get from the different stakeholders and players, because sometimes we are just in our line, and this is very important. And as a ministry, or at the national level, and I think it's also important to create tourism competence on and on and on. So really be competent also in the field of tourism, be an expert in tourism when you're leading in a ministry. Not just administration and law, but also an expert in tourism. I think this is important to get this expertise into the teams also in the ministry.
Yeah, and I think especially we are very much challenged in keeping up to current developments. If this is now a net zero or nature-based tourism, all these new terms that are coming up and that we need to be fully aware of what it means and how it can work. Yes, definitely.
It's really tackling it down to what does it mean, always tackling it down, what does it mean to an enterprise, to a destination, to the local population. So, and this is a very difficult task actually for... because so many frameworks are coming in. And we have to help the system to cope with these frameworks.
This is where this topic comes into the game, definitely. Inés,
well,
please.
I'm on the line of them, and I have to say I'm the one who is in the bottom now. So I think it's a challenge, but we have said it's an opportunity that we have to learn also from all of us. And what I feel that we have also to be generous, because in my experience and in the lower place, that if we are not generous, we have to lose to win a lot. All the parts has to lose, so all the parts has to work together to be able to be advancing sustainability.
Thank you so much, Inés, for your wise words here. Dear ladies and gentlemen, with this, we are coming to an end of this very interesting panel.